Tanse, I'm Sahgaiehcan. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Saskatchewan RCMP is asking for the public's help in locating two men who allegedly robbed a home in the Makwa Sahgaiehcan First Nation in Saskatchewan. Last Thursday at around 9:30 a.m., Loon Lake RCMP say two men broke into a home in the old town site, while a third man remained outside. One of the men inside had a firearm, and both men demanded keys to an ATV and fled in the home and allegedly stole the vehicle. RCMP are now looking for 25-year-old Justin Kaitwehat and 34-year-old Owen Kaitwehat, both from Makwa Sahgaiehcan. RCMP says if you see either of them, Justin or Owen, do not approach them. Instead, call RCMP or Crime Stoppers. Last Monday, 32-year-old Delaney Mitsuing was located and arrested and is scheduled to make his first court appearance in Loon Lake Provincial Court on Thursday. Wildfires continue to burn across northern Canada due to hot, dry, and windy conditions that is only fueling the flames more. The latest community impacted this week is Whati in the Northwest Territories, located 250 kilometers northwest of Yellowknife. The people of Whati were sent an evacuation alert and ordered to make preparations yesterday by the government of the Northwest Territories. Officials say the fire is the territory's #1 priority wildfire, as it grew 4 kilometers overnight and winds continue to push the wildfire north and closer to the community. This morning, the wildfire is now only 8.5 kilometers away, and sprinklers have been set up around the community to protect important infrastructure. The local fire department is also trying to create a water barrier along Highway 9, the only road in or out of the community. Water bombers are currently trying to fight the fire. However, due to all the smoke, visibility is extremely poor. Whati officials say if a full evacuation is ordered, community members will be sent to Beichoko, located 160 kilometers away from Whati. The Mohawk community of Kahnawake in Quebec has recently announced a cross-country trade agreement. It's with the Tsuut'ina First Nation in Alberta. As APTN Savannah Craig reports, Kahnawake Grand Chief Cody Diabo calls this a historic signing.
We're going to bring it from 25% to 50% the tariffs on steel into the United States of America.
Prime Minister Mark Carney announced he will be removing some of Canada's retaliatory tariffs on the United States. Some First Nations are feeling the weight of the U.S. tariffs, but this Mohawk community is using the tariffs to strengthen nation-to-nation trading.
I've been contacting different First Nations leaders, different chiefs, talking about partnering and working together. Historically, this was all our territory.
Kahnawake Grand Chief Cody Diabo says the tariffs started these conversations. But the Grand Chief says the federal legislation Bill C-5 fueled the fire to prioritize nation-to-nation trade deals.
These are our resources, and it's time that we start dealing and trading in our resources away from any Canadian interference.
Come and experience the story for yourself.
Now Kahnawake has a trade partnership with Tsuut'ina First Nation. Tsuut'ina is launching one of the largest First Nations developments in North America called Taza. Taza is a community that will include a mix of parks, residential, retail, and commercial spaces. The deal between Tsuut'ina and Kahnawake was struck last month after Kahnawake Chief Paul Rice, who handles the economic development portfolio, visited Tsuut'ina.
Tsuut'ina, they have other businesses.
Chief Rice is hoping Kahnawake will learn from Tsuut'ina's entrepreneurial expertise.
In Kahnawake, we have hundreds of entrepreneurs, develop a lot of products. Some of them are selling them online. As a tangible example, the Taza development has commercial availability. So even getting our products from east to west, and then vice versa, west to east. We're located 15 minutes from Montreal, they're 15 minutes from Calgary. So an exchange of products, opening new markets is good for those entrepreneurs.
He says Kahnawake is potentially looking into importing natural gas from Tsuut'ina to diversify Kahnawake's energy supply.
We're seeing the ramping up of mega projects.
Indigenous trade expert Wayne Garnons-Williams says an agreement like this is important to prevent trade between Indigenous nations from being threatened by another government power.
Anything can be threatened, but the question is the assertion of that right in Canada, it's never been extinguished, expressly extinguished, and we just need to assert it more by building our own system. And it's important that we build our own system because our version of how we view trade and commerce is different than the European-based system that's dominating the world.
He says all First Nations internationally should be writing trade agreements to assert their economic rights, not just domestic agreements.
No court has ever expressly extinguished Indigenous economic rights. We have that. It is recognized, and we just need to assert it more by building our own system.
Professor David Carrier-Acko encourages Indigenous people on both sides of the U.S.-Canada border to develop a trade coalition.
The way Indigenous people have to react is to collectively come together to protect their interests.
He runs the Indigenous Business Management program at McGill University and a consulting firm called Acosys. His PhD focuses on economic reconciliation. But in order for a cross-border trade agreement to be established, Carrier-Acko says Canada needs to uphold the Jay Treaty.
When you look at it from the British point of view, that ratification was to prevent the American economy from growing. Now you have Trump, who doesn't want the Canadian economy to grow. So ratify it. In many ways, the Jay Treaty will provide a competitive advantage to Canada in many ways, and to reestablish that nation-to-nation relationship.
Until this is established, the Grand Chief says he is continuing to reach out to other nations to establish more trade agreements. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Ganawage, Mohawk Territory.
A Winnipeg organization says a street count has revealed the highest number of people experiencing homelessness in the city since it began tracking the numbers in 2015. End Homelessness Winnipeg says a point-in-time census conducted on November 5th, 2024 identified 2,469 unhoused individuals. Indigenous peoples made up 80% of those who experienced homelessness on that day. The organization says it's a powerful reminder of ongoing systemic inequities. End Homelessness Winnipeg says some of the main pathways that led to people being homeless were the justice system, the healthcare system, and the child welfare system. 49% of those on the street said they were involved in the child welfare system. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs says the figures tell a very sad story of dispossession, displacement, and disconnection, and that this is not just a housing crisis, it is the direct result of generations of colonial policies. And Homelessness Winnipeg is holding a press conference to discuss the findings on Thursday. It's calling for affordable housing, income supports, and culturally relevant services. Efforts are underway to preserve the Michif language in Saskatchewan. That story when we come back. Welcome back. As the Michif language faces a significant drop in fluent speakers in Saskatchewan, a number of programs are trying to revitalize the unique language, including the works of a Saskatoon woman. CTV's Carla Shinkaruk finds out more about her efforts of keeping the Métis language from going silent.
For the censure flashy, all about the sash.
Lila Phillips is speaking Michif. She works to preserve the language that is unlike any other in the world. It blends French nouns and Cree verbs, but today only about 30 people, mostly elders, speak it fluently. So with an aging population of experts, it's a race against time to revive it.
And language shapes and tells us who we are, and that's why it's so important for me to keep fighting for Michif.
And that fight happens through programs offered by various Métis groups in Saskatoon, like the Central Urban Métis Federation and Métis Nation, as well as here at the Public School Division, teaching kids Michif.
With the cultural program at Westmount, the cultural teacher will visit classrooms. The teachers there also do an amazing job of incorporating language throughout their day. My name's Lila too, Tanche, and I'm Michif too. That
is one of Philip's fond memories of teaching Michif, seeing the connection in a young student's eyes.
So they were really excited, and they saw somebody else who reflected who they were, and they were just excited to share and say that they were Michif.
She's trying to make up for generations of Michif speakers who hid the language, a survival mechanism.
The old ones, the old people, did what they thought at the time to try to protect us from colonization and racism.
Her grandfather spoke Michif, but died when she was only 2 years old.
My Mushum would be happy now that we're trying so hard to fight for Michif language, to wake it up, to speak it, to hang on to it, and to fight for it. Tanche. Tanche.
What does that mean?
That means hello. My hope is that I'll hear it in all spaces, wherever I travel, that there will be people speaking and sharing Michif.
For Indigenous Circle, I'm Carla Shinkaruk in Saskatoon.
A high-risk tension crack in the same location where a landslide last summer blocked the Chilcotin River in northern BC is making the community nearby sound the alarm as they are worried about the sockeye and Chinook salmon. Chief Roger Williams from the Chilcotin Nation says this could cause huge impacts to not just his community, but everyone else along the Fraser River.
A lot of our salmon was already going to be impacted from the big bar slide 4 years prior. So, and with this big slide, it cut that in half again. So it's like a catastrophe. It's huge. It had long-term effects, and the salmon, about 50% made it up. Our task force we put together at the nation level is followed by even the Pacific Salmon Commission, and they get in all the information from our nation task force about the impact about the Chilcotin River, which comes out of the Aboriginal tidal land, and the salmon spawn in Aboriginal tidal land. So it's Chilcotin means we're the river people, Chilcotin, and we really depend on the river, on the salmon. It could have huge effects, huge impacts. If that, it'll be much like the big bar, and it's going to stop river again. Like last year, it stopped it for almost 6 days, and this one could be more. There's canyons that it's going through, and it's going to be, the water, the river will be held back for a longer period of time. And then the impact from last year, all these sediments, some of that is still coming down, is still affecting the salmon. So you get the second one, and it's going to be another big hit. And this affects other areas downriver into the Fraser River.
Chiefs in Manitoba, along with the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, is mourning the loss of former Chief Jim Bear. The Southern Chiefs organization made the announcement this morning. They said Chief Bear left a remarkable warrior's impact and influence in First Nations in Manitoba, and he was recognized as a chief, a leader in business, and a steadfast advocate for Indigenous people. Earlier this year, on April 30th, Treaty 1 chiefs presented a Lifetime Achievement Award to Chief Bear. He was a residential school survivor and a longtime leader of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. His legacy also includes co-founding the Southeast Resource Development Council, helping to establish the South Beach Casino, and he contributed to the historic repatriation of Nawi Udana project in Winnipeg. Chief Bear was also previously awarded the Queen's Jubilee Medal. In a statement, Manitoba Families Minister Nahani Fontaine said, Chief Jim Bear, he was a kind, generous, and dedicated leader. I always appreciated listening to his wise words. Manitoba is a better place because of Elder Bear. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs also said Chief Bear dedicated his life to advancing the rights and sovereignty of First Nations. His leadership, vision, and commitment to nationhood left a lasting impact not only on his community, but across Manitoba and beyond. Our sincerest condolences to Chief Bear's family. We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, do you believe Indigenous communities benefit from projects like pipelines, hydro dams, and mines? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca to have your say. A new documentary called Anujiwak recently made its big debut at the Montreal International Film Festival. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Me, Gwetch, for staying with us. St. John's 19, Charlottetown 22 and sunny. Anujiwak 11, the Grand River 7. Montreal 19, Gaspé 21 and sunny. Rain in Toronto at 17, Sault Ste. Marie 12. 12 in Big Trout Lake, Wawa 10 and sunny. The Paw 21, Norway House 20 and sunny there. Sunny in Barons River at 20, Princess Harbor 20. Swift Current 26, Estevan 24. Stony Rapids 22, Meadow Lake 25 and sun there. 33 in Fort McMurray, Peace River 32. 27 in Medicine Hat, Lethbridge 24. Sunny in Vancouver at 26, Bella Coola 23. Sandspit 15, Prince George 30. 24 in Whitehorse, rain in Beaver Creek at 22. 30 in Fort Simpson, Whati 30. Sax Harbor 5, Pawlatuck 12 and sunny. Rain in Baker Lake at 17, Chesterfield 14. And Arctic Bay -2, Iqaluit +8. The world premiere of the feature-length documentary Inukjuak took place at the Montreal International Film Festival last week. Nouveau host producer Kim Sullivan has that story.
Filmed in the spring of 2022 in Inukjuak, Nunavik, the film presents a double perspective on the North and Inuit society in the 2020s.
When it started appearing, like it brought up maybe flashbacks.
Inukjuak resident and co-director Gila Yemaluk wanted to celebrate the resilience of her people by looking back on the community's last 100 years. A social worker by trade, she wanted above all to help young people understand the traumas of the past as well as the behaviors of their parents in order to begin a process of healing.
They don't understand about the relocation and residential school survivors. So it's because I didn't know about it too growing up. We learned that very late. It's for them to understand why they act the way they act. So they won't feel how I feel growing up.
When I pull this, the arrow would go.
The documentary offers an intimate look at the small community of Inukjuak and the daily lives of its members.
Spending time with them out on the land, they share their stories.
Some even actively participated, such as Tommy Palliser, who worked as a local producer.
It's great to tell our story, coming from the community where, we like to share our way of living, Simple life in a small community is sometimes hard to understand until you're actually in the community. So I think it's a great way of showing how Inuit live today.
He adds that this documentary is not just a film, but a cultural bridge between the South and the North, and an invitation to open dialogue with Indigenous peoples.
The Inuit in Canada, are a big part of the country as well. I think we're bridging the gap between the South and the North through these documentaries, and I think these documentaries are just that. They're storytelling. To explain, how we live. To better understand, better communicate with each other.
And just like the poetic tone that this documentary gives to the community of Inukjuak, Tommy Palliser continues by saying that this communication can only lead to good things.
As long as we understand and keep sharing, the world's going to be a lot better.
Kim Sullivan and Jonah Aspler, APTN National News, Montreal.
This week, the Empowering Innovation Spirit Conference in Yellowknife is bringing together Northern Indigenous entrepreneurs from across Canada and other northern parts of the world. Our APTN video journalist Bruce Telacruz was on the ground to capture the celebration of Northern community and has more in this report.
Over 150 people are at the Explorer Hotel in Yellowknife this week for the Empowering Innovation Spirit Conference. Organized by Entrepreneurth, a project started in 2017 to help Northern Indigenous entrepreneurs grow their businesses, the conference is the first of its kind.
This is a conference that has been an idea in our minds for years, because we recognize that while there are lots of conferences that happen in the North, there's nothing that has specifically been dedicated to Indigenous entrepreneurship and innovation.
Zena Cohen, current co-director of Entrepreneurth, explains how Entrepreneurth came from humble beginnings.
One of the things that was identified was a lack of culturally relevant resources and supports for community members who were wanting to start or grow a business. What's been really great over the last couple of years is to see this movement of Indigenous entrepreneurship growing across Turtle Island, but we recognized that there was a real need for there to be place-based in the North supports for entrepreneurs.
Anouk Slindell, an Inuk artist from Arviat Nunavut, was part of the first cohort of entrepreneurs, facilitated by Entrepreneurth. Today, he was a panelist discussing the community impact of entrepreneurship. Talking to APTN News, he says that the chance to network during this conference is what he's looking forward to the most.
It's really exciting because I know a lot of these people through like social media, so actually getting to meet them is probably one of the best parts, and see if there's some collaboration that can happen.
Bernice Kutu Clark, born and raised in Iqaluit, Nunavut, is the founder of Wazo Soap, which she describes as Nunavut in a bar. Clark led one of the opening ceremonies of the conference, which she called the lighting of the Kurduk. She told us the importance of why sustaining a northern economy is important for Indigenous people to maintain their own identities.
For my reason of becoming an entrepreneur, it was so that I am comfortable within myself to be who I am and who I always was. I have grown so much as an entrepreneur, and now I am economically independent, and I show Inuit, other Indigenous, you too can, in your light, in your way.
And that was part one of our coverage of the Empowering Innovation Spirit Conference organized by Entrepreneurth. Stay tuned for part two as we wrap up the conference and see what else the conference has in store. Bruce De La Cruz, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Thursday. Tiara Wheatley is back for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. Hi miigwech masi cho kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.